Today we are privileged to have with us the Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, together with his deputy and representatives from his ministry. Our discussion for the morning will be on two major topics. The thematic areas are: 1, the pension and pension-related matters, and 2, decline in unemployment situation, new jobs created. Under the pension and pension-related matters, we'll be discussing transfer of pensions from the temporary pensions trust account into the various public and private sector pension schemes. 2, we'll be discussing government to start payment of benefits under the new pension law. 3, we will be discussing sanctions regime and prosecution of defaulting employers. We will be also be discussing new average time for processing of pensions. And finally, we'll be discussing the resolutions of all matters related to past credit. So without wasting much time, I would like to invite the Honorable Ignatius Bafo.
Even before I start, I've just been told that today marks the 70th anniversary of the formation of GJA. So I want to take this opportunity to congratulate the Ghana Journalists Association for your 70th birthday, and to also thank you for your contribution to the growth of our dear nation. Congratulations. Honorable Chair, I'm happy to be here today to interact with the press and to update you on happenings within the sector over the 2.5 years gone. As the lead policy advisor to government on employment and labor-related issues, our core duty is to coordinate job creation interventions in all sectors of the economy. The sector also ensures the promotion of peaceful industrial relations for national development. Let me emphasize that, contrary to the widely perceived notion that the sector creates jobs, the sector rather largely coordinates employment opportunities for decent work outcomes. I'm saying so because as Minister for Employment, oftentimes I get people coming to me, Honorable Minister, I want to work at this organization, I want to work at this department, and what have you. And when you tell them that you are not responsible for that, they are surprised. We do this by developing policies, programs, and strategies that facilitate job creation. We also enforce existing labor laws and regulations. It is the vision of the ministry to ensure decent work for all workers in Ghana and Ghanaian workers elsewhere on the globe. Decent work is the overarching standard that seeks to guarantee universally acceptable work and employment, the protection of the rights of workers, ensuring social protection for workers and their families, as well as institutionalization of social dialogue. As part of the coordinating role, the ministry undertakes several activities aimed at accelerating job creation, improving the quality of jobs, enhancing the employability of job seekers, preventing child labor, administration of wages and salaries in the public service, and ensuring income security on retirement. These activities are carried out by the ministry and its departments and agencies, some of which include the Labor Department, which is responsible for labor administration, Department of Factories Inspectorate, which is responsible for occupational health and safety issues, the Labor Commission, which is responsible for settling labor disputes, the Youth Employment Agency, which is an intervention to provide job for young persons between the ages 15 and 35. The cooperative institutions, which include the Cooperative Department, the Cooperative Council, and the Cooperative College, which is also responsible for regulating, administration, and training of persons in cooperative skills. The National Vocational Training Institute, Integrated Community Centers for Employable Skills, ICES, Opportunities Industrialization Center, Ghana. The MVTI, ICES, and OICG are the TVET wing of the ministry, which is responsible to give people on-the-skill job training for jobs. We also have the Management, Development, and Productivity Institute, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, and the National Pensions Regulatory Authority. Ladies and gentlemen, through the visionary leadership of His Excellency the President, and ably supported by members of his government, utilizing the combined efforts of the institutions listed above and the collaborations of all employment generation institutions, I can confidently say that unemployment is on the decline. Ladies and gentlemen, may I at this juncture share with you some information derived from the employment data of the 7th round of the Ghana Living Standard Survey GLSS 7 after further analysis of the metadata. Ghana's working age population, that is age 15 and above, is estimated at 17.56 million, comprising 46.8 males and 53.2 females. The meaning is that there are more women in the employment space than you may find men. A total of 11.06 million, representing 63% of the working age population, are in different types and forms of employment. And 1.14 million people, representing about 6%, are working for own use or working voluntarily and therefore not considered to be in employment, as per ILO definitions of employment. The remaining 5.36 million people are not working because they are either schooling, incapacitated, or in domestic activities, or they are unemployed. That is, they are either seeking for work or they are even discouraged because they think that they will never get jobs doing. It may interest you, ladies and gentlemen, to also note that the service sector constitutes the major source of employment in Ghana. It accounts for 49%. And this 49% is made up of 90% of the persons in the informal sector are in trade, and then other services also provide 30% of the jobs in the job market. This is followed closely by the agricultural sector, which also engages 38% of the working population. Industry has a paltry share of 13%. And even that, if you break it down, manufacturing has 8, and industry itself also has 5. But I must admit that as you move across the country, the proportions changes. Because if you come to the cities, you find more persons engaged in commerce and trade and industry than perhaps as you move into the hinterlands, where agriculture also becomes the mainstay of the workers. Of the 11.06 million people in employment, about 29.2% are in paid employment. 53.2% are in self-employment, while 16.9% are contributing family workers. The remaining 0.9% constitutes other forms of employment, such as domestic work. Of the 29.2% in paid employment, 23.3% are paid employees, 5.3% are casual workers, whilst the remaining 0.6% are paid apprentices. The 53.2% in self-employment is made up of non-agricultural self-employed with employees of 3.4%, agricultural self-employed without employees of 0.7%, non-agricultural self-employed without employees 26.4%, and agricultural self-employed without employees 22.7%. Out of the total 16.9% contributing to family works, 13.1% are in agriculture, while the remaining 3.8% are in non-agricultural activities. It may also be interesting for you to note that the workspace in Ghana can also be categorized into formal and informal. The informal economy continues to dominate the labor markets, such that 85% of employment is in the informal sector, with the formal sector accounting for the remaining 15%. If I may have to even go further, I would say that 7% of the work in the formal space takes place within the public sector, whilst 8% takes place within the private formal sector. If I may explain further, if after completion of school one decides to work for, say, Star FM is a formal institution, but it is not a public institution. So such a person will be counted amongst those that have been recruited within the formal private sector. On the other hand, if his other counterpart decided to work for, say, GES is a public institution, so that person will also be counted as being in the public formal sector. Out of the 5.6 million Ghanaians who did not do any work, about 4.34 million were not available for work due to schooling, training, incapacitation, or domestic activities. From the remaining 1.02 million who were available for work, about 422,000 made efforts to look for work. Maybe I will take you through the ILO definition of unemployment. People who actually are not working and made efforts to look for work and did not obtain work summed up to 422,000, and in percentage terms, 3.7%. So, strictly speaking, these are the unemployed persons that we have on our hand. But of course, I also agree that somebody may decide that, no, I will not even go and look for work at all, because even if I go, I will not get. So I will not make any effort. I don't know anybody within the system to even talk to before perhaps I can be helped. So if that is the case, I will not go. So if you include all such persons who did not make effort, but are in actual fact are not working because they have given up looking for work, their number is 417,500. So if you add that to those who are looking for work but are not getting it, the percentage then moves to 7.1%. So strictly speaking, we have two definitions of unemployment. We have the strict definition and we have the relaxed definition. If we apply the strict definition, the figure now then is 3.7. But then if we use the relaxed method, which includes all other persons that have given up and are actually, though not working, but are not looking for work, the figure then comes up to 7.1%. These figures largely reflect the numerous efforts of the government flagship policies, programs, and interventions conceptualized in the Coordinated Program for Economic and Social Development Policies 2017-2024 and the National Medium-Term Development Framework 2018-2021, which put job creation at the center of the national development agenda. These interventions, as you all know, include the Planting for Food and Jobs, Rearing for Food and Jobs, One District, One Factory, revamping vocational skills training, and the models under the Youth Employment Agency, the Youth in Entrepreneurship Development, Entrepreneurship Support and Startup, Nation Builders Core, among others. It may interest you when we study the data and analyze it. We realize that one of the major contributors to the decline in unemployment has been the introduction of the free senior high school. You may ask why. I indicated to you earlier that the working population starts from age 15. At age 15, a child had just completed junior high school or junior secondary school. So all things being equal, all those who otherwise wouldn't have continued education will have fallen into the unemployment bracket. But for the free senior high, they are schooling, so you cannot say that they are unemployed. So one of the major contributory factors to the decline in unemployment is the introduction of the free senior high school. It is my pleasure to announce that during the period under review, a total of 611,397 jobs were created in the formal sector. Out of this figure, the ministries, departments, and agencies accounted for 343,458 jobs, whilst the formal private sector also created 267,939 jobs. In addition to these new jobs in the formal sector, the ever-famous Planting for Food and Jobs program is estimated to have created 1,593 jobs from 2017 to date. The figures from the respective institutions can be accessed from the ministry's website, www.melr.gov.gh. In addition to the good news about a falling unemployment rate from 11.9% in 2015 to 7.1% in 2019, you will all agree with me that there has been a relatively stable and peaceful industrial atmosphere since January 2017. And I must commend the gallant workers of Ghana, employers, and the leadership of respective unions for their support, patience, and tolerance in the handling of all labor disputes on the labor front. Let me emphasize here that this has been the result from our collective efforts as members of the tripartite body, and in no way should credit be given to any one individual. The media can also not be forgotten. Indeed, you have played your role of reporting most accurately on labor-related issues, and this has contributed to this great success. I recall when this infraction on a worker at Mawako came up, it was the the press which was the first to report the incident to us. But for them, perhaps it would have taken us a lot of time to have unearthed such an infraction. So kudos to the press. Inasmuch as we consider all of our functions important and relevant for discussions at this forum such as this, I would like to focus today's discussion on pensions and pension-related issues. Why am I saying so? we will all one day grow and reach the retirement age. But unfortunately, even though pension is a reality of life, hardly do we hear people discuss issues of pension. It is only when we are getting so close to retirement that our attentions are normally drawn to issues of pension. So I want to use today to bring the nation's attentions to pension. It's one of the most important social interventions that one ought to remind itself of on a daily basis, because every day gives us an additional day in our life and it edges us closer to our retirement. You see, as I'm saying this, those who are closer are nodding their heads. This is in line with the theme for 2019 May Day celebration, which was Sustainable Pensions for All, the role of social partners. And also, if you recall, on that day, His Excellency the President gave a directive to the sector to resolve all pensions and pensions-related matters that were raised by organized labor in the 2019 May Day celebration. I have seen how the General Secretary, the Executive Secretary of CLOSAC has raised his head when I mentioned pensions. I must admit that organized labor, especially spearheaded by the leadership of Forum, have actually done yeoman's work in cleaning the pension space and bringing us to where we are now. A big commendation to them. For effective and efficient management of pensions and to ensure retirement income security for all, government in 2008 introduced the 3-tier pension scheme through the passage of Act 766 as amended to replace the then existing PNDC Law 247. Under Act 766 as amended, employers make direct contributions of 13% for and on behalf of their employees, and the employees contribute 5.5%, making a total of 18.5% in contribution to the schemes. The first and second tiers are mandatory, whilst the third tier is voluntary. Tier 1. The Tier 1, which is the mandatory basic national social security scheme, is managed by the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SNIT, and includes the payment of monthly pensions, survivors' benefits, and invalidity pension to cover all employees who contribute in both the public and private sectors. The Tier 2 is also a mandatory occupational pension scheme, privately managed, and it is paid as a lump sum, while Tier 3 is a voluntary provident fund and personal pension scheme, which is privately managed and administered and also paid in lump sum. The Tier 3 pension is available also for the informal sector workers of the economy. As of 31st December 2018, the active worker population recorded on the Tier 1 was 1,533,942. New members enrolled onto the SNIT scheme increased from 281,203 in 2017 to 611,397 as of May 2019, at an average growth rate of 46.8%. As part of efforts to sanitize the operations of SNIT, government embarked on an exercise from February this year to identify and eliminate ghost pensioners from the SNIT payroll. This led to the deletion of 6,311 ghost pensioners from the SNIT payroll, saving the trust over 43.8 million as of May 2019. Recognizing the importance of pension in addressing old age poverty and maximizing customer satisfaction, SSNIT undertook some urgent reforms to meet the demands of its clientele, particularly pensioners. As a result, a new benchmark time for processing pension applications for payment has been instituted. Currently, the average processing time for pension payment has reduced from 30 days to 17 days and is paid mid-month ahead of workers' salary. It may interest you to note that the minimum pension is also higher than the minimum wage. Tier 2. This is 5% of the total contribution of 18.5% for the employee. Under the Tier 2, there were some 427,137 contributors as of end of 2018. Ironically, the number of employees on the Tier 1, that is 1,533,942, are more than those on the Tier 2, though both are mandatory. So the meaning is that it is possible some employers pay Tier 1 of their workers' contribution but do not pay the Tier 2. It is for this reason and other pension-related offenses that NPRA has secured prosecutorial powers from the Attorney General to prosecute offending employers. Currently, as of June 2019, 13 defaulting employers have been earmarked for prosecution. Dockets are being prepared to send them to court. I therefore want to use this opportunity to appeal to all employers to pay the contributions of their employees timely to avoid prosecutions. Perhaps if I were asked what has been the major or the most significant development within the pension front within the period under review, I would say that that has been the payment of temporary pension fund account which was held in Bank of Ghana to the various schemes. Government, through the ministry and the Ministry of Finance, established a ministerial technical committee to ensure the successful transfer of the Tier 2 contributions which had been held in a temporary pension fund account at the Bank of Ghana since 2010, pending the establishment of the various public and private sector occupational pension schemes. I must admit, this became a subject of confusion between organized labor and government, and at a point in time, organized labor took government to court. Government asked for out-of-court settlement and agreed terms. But thankfully, I am happy to inform you that the outcome of the committee's work culminated in the seamless transfer of an amount of 3.001 billion into the custodian accounts of the various public sector registered pension schemes. And these schemes include Ghana Education Service Occupational Pension Scheme, Health Sector Occupational Pension Scheme, Judicial Service Occupational Pension Scheme, Hedge Master Trust Occupational Pension Scheme, and Public Sector Workers Employers Pension Scheme. I therefore seize this opportunity once again to convey our heartfelt gratitude to His Excellency the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who lived up to his word when he made a promise by his government to ensure that these transfers are effected to the various stakeholders. Let me also once again thank members of the forum for prompting us and whipping us making sure that the right thing is done. And of course, I will also not forget my good brother and colleagues working at the Ministry of Finance for the collaboration that we had together. But for them, perhaps we wouldn't have been where we are. We are also grateful to them. I also wish to firmly assure you that efforts are being expedited to bring all matters arising out of the TPFA transfers, including data reconciliation of beneficiaries and the issue of past credit, to a logical conclusion. Perhaps when I say past credit, but for time, I may need to explain. You know, before the new Pensions Act took effect, some persons were already in work and were contributing. Those days, SSNIT was the main recipient of all pension funds. So going beyond 2010, your contributions were divided into two, that which goes to SSNIT and that which goes to the private occupational pension scheme. So one will ask, what of the earlier contributions that we made to SSNIT even before the passage of Act 766? That is what we refer to as the past credit, that portion which relates to Tier 2. There were so many outstanding issues. Initially, the agreement was that if the law has been passed, SSNIT should make one bulk payment of all such funds to the various occupational pension schemes. But we negotiated with organized labor because that actually was going to have a lot of liquidity implications on SSNIT. So we have agreed as a first step that SSNIT should manage those funds for us. But going forward, beyond the date of the negotiation, it should attract an agreed interest rate, which is 100% TB rate. And those are some of the strides that we have made. I must admit that those agreements were not reached easily. We had to negotiate, and for a whole long period, some of the issues were still being litigated or something of the sort. So that is why I am using this opportunity to thank organized labor. They made a lot of concessions before we could reach where we are. I also wish to firmly assure you that efforts are being expedited to bring all matters arising out of the TPFA transfers, including data reconciliation, as I said, into conclusion. I indicated to you that the total working population in Ghana is 11.06 million. And I have also indicated to you that those on the SSNIT or pension scheme is around 1.5 million. So it means that there's a huge gap there that are not on any social pension program that we need to fill. You realize that there's so much dependency ratio in Ghana. One person works and everybody is taking a little bit of the income that one person. You have an aged parents that you have to take care of. You have friends who are not working, family members who are not working. So at the end of the month, you may have to do remittances to them. Indeed, I must admit that we did a survey of how people use their disposable income. And amongst them, which came up was that they spend more on their aged parents. But if all these aged parents were on some kind of regular income from pensions, perhaps that expenditure will no longer be there. And I must also admit that perhaps that also contributes to why sometimes during negotiations with the tripartite bodies, you see all the members of the tripod making claims for higher remuneration because what they have to spend on is huge. So that informal space, what is it? How are we going to raise them? Are we going to leave them out, or how are we tackling that? That's what I want to dwell the few moments ahead on. As a result of many more efforts deliberately put in place by the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, there has been an increase in the membership and contribution of the personal pension scheme. As at the first quarter of 2019, The total membership of personal pension scheme was 158,577, with a total asset under management of 88,646,234 cedis, 58 persons. This notwithstanding, and considering the fact that the informal economy employs about 85% of the entire workforce of the country, there's a lot more of the informal sector workers within the Ghanaian population uncovered, and all efforts should be made to extend coverage to this important segment of the economy. In view of this, expanding pension coverage to the informal economy remains a top priority for the ministry in the short to medium term. Thus, as a sector, we have recognized the formalization of the informal economy as a critical step for the expansion of pensions. To this end, roadmap on transitioning the informal economy into formal economy has been developed in collaboration with sister ministries, departments, and agencies. Of course, not forgetting the Office of His Excellency the Vice President. Additionally, the following specific strategies have been implemented to facilitate enrollment of workers in the informal economy. 1. Various private sector schemes have been registered to provide support services for informal economy pensions coverage. 2. In connection with expanding pensions coverage, the MPRA has begun decentralizing its operation to reach out to more workers. So far, the authority has 4 regional offices outside Accra. These are in Kumasi, Tamale, Takoradi, and recently Sunyani. More regional and district offices are expected to be opened over the medium term to improve pension administration at all levels. I want to believe the Tema office will be opened before the end of the year. Which one next? Koforidia? Yes. And Cape Coast. That notwithstanding, stakeholder discussions are still ongoing to establish specific pension schemes for various economic units within the informal economy, ranging from farmers, fishermen, market women, traders, drivers, artisans, and if I may be specific on artisans, carpenters, masons, welders, tailors, hairdressers, and etc., to spare parts dealers. It is very important we recognize the work the various organizations do and tailor the pension scheme to meet them. For instance, if you want to develop a pension scheme for cocoa farmers, they do 2 main harvesting within the year, the main harvest and then the light crop season. So if you go out there with a pension that allows for monthly payment, how will they get money to be able to pay during the off-season? So we are looking at what specifically a particular industry does and then be able to tailor a specific product to meet their taste. So we are in discussions with the various associations to see how best we will fashion out a specific pension program to suit them. Ladies and gentlemen, perhaps in mentioning this, one may think that we don't have challenges. We certainly have, especially within the pension fund. Even though the pension industry is beginning to experience some tremendous improvement, there are some key challenges impeding progress in the pension sector. Amongst them are: 1, under declaration of basic salaries of employees by some employers in order to pay low contributions for employees. This ultimately affects their pensions because pensions are direct reflection of the salaries on which contributions are paid. So sometimes they will tell you that, no, this is your basic salary, and that we will work your pension based on the basic salary, and then will offer you so many allowances. Sometimes we are taken aback by the fact that when you lump the two together, it's huge, it's enough, it can take care of us, not forgetting that pension is rather worked on the basic salary alone. So, of course, I wouldn't say it is illegal, but some try to manage their books by trying to do a mixture of the two and let it favor allowances as against basic salary. We want to use this opportunity to plead with both employers and employees that even as they go to negotiations to negotiate, perhaps they should also look at those things. They are very, very important. 2, deliberate attempt by some employers not to enroll employees on the three-tier pension schemes, particularly Tier 2. And 3, non-payment and untimely payment of workers' contribution by employers, leading to rising employer indebtedness and loss of investment returns, respectively. Major interventions within the pensions industry, if I may sum up what I said earlier on, had been 1, the transfer of 3.001 billion from the TPFA to various occupational pension schemes. Resolution of matters related to past credits, development of comprehensive data to accompany the transfer of TPFA amounts, and boldness to start payment of benefits under the new current pensions law Act 766 by January 2020. These, as I said earlier on, were achieved with collaboration of our social partners, that is organized labor and employers. Perhaps let me take this opportunity to also announce to all that when the banking shakeup took place, I overheard so many people saying that pension funds are endangered. I want to use this opportunity to announce to all that no pension fund in the country has been affected by any of this banking restructuring that has taken place. All pension funds in the country are safe and they are being managed and managed very well. Let me once again say that the total assets under pensions management by all the three-tier pension operators sum up to 22 billion 256 million 576 cedis as of December 2018. And as I indicated, Senate's share is around 42%, and then Tier 2 and 3 has close to 53%. In order to grow and sustain pensions to enforce Act 766 as amended, the NPARA must necessarily be strengthened and supported to deliver as expected of a credible regulator of the industry. To ensure this, government is collaborating with the World Bank to undertake some reforms towards sustainability of pensions. Other development partners, particularly the Swiss government through SECO, are also in collaboration with NPRA to build its capacity to effectively regulate the world of pensions. Maybe before I draw down the curtain, let me tell you a story. A chief in Sunyani, I'm being careful, I said a chief in Sunyani, I didn't say Sunyani chief, told us when we did an outreach in Sunyani, in admonishing us to be very careful in the management of pension funds. He said, as for him, he thinks that the safest pension is to give your children the best form of education and make sure that they get the best job to do. In your old age, they will take care of you. So that is his understanding of pension, because he thinks that banks are failing. It is possible pension institutions may also fail. But as for your own child, he may not fail. That is his understanding. But I also told him, Nana, it is true. It is an obligation on you as a parent to bring up your child. But you can also not be too sure that your child will be so obedient and will do your bidding by taking care of you even at your old age. Because we have had several of such cases where children even abandon their old parents. Besides that, anything at all can happen in the development of the child. So whilst you develop your child, it is also better to set aside something small for your future when you grow old. This is just a small teaser. How many of us are on pensions? How many of us follow our contributions to see how much we have? Should we even retire today? And how many of us even find time to even visit their pension institutions? Thank you, and God bless you all.